Hi, I'm Perry Gadurgis, host of Recovery Today. I want to welcome you to another show, an episode that is sponsored by the Recovery Resource Center here in Salisbury, Maryland. We talk about issues related to addiction and recovery and families and resources and a whole variety of things that relate to sort of the interdependent connection of what recovery looks like in our community. And with that, our guest today is Heidi McNeeley from Worcester Warriors that I guess are based in Berlin, Maryland?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Perry. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Our founder of this show, John Winslow, a mutual friend of ours,
Yes.
had told me a year ago that he really wanted to get you and on this show to hear about the work that you guys have been doing, particularly as it relates to supporting families and parents that are wrestling with, struggling with addiction with a loved one. So who are you today?
So today I am the president of the Worcester County Warriors Against Opiate Addiction, and myself and our vice president, Jackie Ball, co-founded this group in 2016. So we're getting ready to celebrate our third year in action, which is pretty exciting.
Okay, so with you and Jackie as co-founders, what caused you or what happened to want to create a group like this?
Well, it's kind of a long journey, long story. My son suffered opiate addiction, and having traveled that journey with my son, I knew how isolating it was and how hopeless it could feel. And at the time, around 2014, 2015, there was nothing in the media. Nobody was talking about it. There were no support groups that I was aware of. And I think, that was kind of what I found, is that it was really difficult to find resources or support. So I just really felt very strongly that there needed to be support for families of people that were addicted. And I wrote a letter to Governor Hogan. Governor Hogan's office connected me with the Worcester County Health Department, which had been a fabulous resource all along, but something I never even considered tapping into. I never thought about calling them. So some wonderful ladies at the health department, Jennifer LeMaid and Jessica Sexauer, met with me and suggested that I connect with this woman, Jackie Ball. And they said that Jackie had kind of been very vocal about needing support for families and had presented at a couple of the schools about addiction because her son was also in active addiction. So Jackie and I connected and kind of exploded from there. We decided to just have a group at the Ocean Pines Library. We decided to put flyers out and just invite families, parents, spouses to join us if they wanted to talk about what we saw as an epidemic that was starting in our community. And we fully expected to have maybe 8 or 9 people attend. We reserved the conference room at the library that held a maximum of 12 people. Wow. And at the last minute, somebody said to us, people are talking about this. You may want to think about getting a bigger room. So we did reserve the bigger room. And my husband, Jamie, came to help us set up chairs. He set up 12 chairs. And within a half an hour of the start of the meeting, we had 50 people. Wow. So that was a pretty good indication that our group was needed.
And what time of the year was that? I'm thinking of the seasonalness of Ocean City area or the county as it is.
That was actually on my dad's birthday. We held it April 7th, 2016.
Okay. So from that meeting, what came out of that then? I guess certainly the need, obviously, and then sort of tasks or brainstorming or to like, what should we do and what have you done?
And that's a perfect way to put it. It was completely a brainstorming session. We had no plans, no outline, no agenda. We just kind of allowed everybody in the room to tell their story and kind of gauge where people's passions lay. We had a very passionate teacher, a nurse, an attorney, a physician, a police officer who all wanted to be a part of this somehow. So we came up with a mission statement, which is to provide support education, awareness, and navigation of resources to the people of Worcester County who have been impacted by the opiate epidemic. And so we thought, well, maybe the next meeting we'd break into different committees and kind of just try to brainstorm, figure out what our next steps would be. So we decided to meet at the Ocean City Worship Center because they very kindly allowed us to have some classrooms to use as breakout rooms. And we thought we'd talk for maybe 10, 15 minutes and then allow everybody to go to the room where they were most interested in joining. But that night, we had 300 people come.
Wow.
So that was all off the agenda. And we had some real heavy hitters there. Mary Beth Carrozza came. Senator Jim Mathias was there. Nate Passwaters, who is the head of the Worcester County Drug Task Force. I think Bo Oglesby, our state's attorney at the time, who's now a judge, were all there. And so everybody got up and spoke, and we heard from parents, and we heard from everybody around our community how this had affected them, and the heartbreak they were living with, and the kind of just lostness, you know, like I experienced in not knowing who to turn to or who to call or where resources lie. So that kind of instigated the rest of our journey, and kind of showed us what we needed to do and how we needed to really fight this in our community.
And so fight is an interesting word, because I was also thinking about the idea of being held hostage, as families a lot of times are, as well as the individual that's suffering from a substance use disorder. And additionally, if they also happen to have a co-occurring issue as well with mental health concerns. So how has that journey been like for you personally then, in terms of your recovery or your own personal growth?
It's been remarkable. It has been remarkable. I will never forget, at our very first meeting, one of our dear friends, Kevin Hassett, said, there are two most important days in your life, and the first day is the day you were born, and the second day is the day you figure out why you were born. And to me, that's exactly what happened. It took a really long time, but I realized that this is kind of my cause, my journey. And although I was really sad to watch my son suffer the way he did, and he's now doing very well, and it was a terrifying journey, I also say I wouldn't change it for the world, because it changed my life. It changed me as a person completely.
So then your fight is different then, because from what I understand, as you had shared earlier, there isn't a lot of resources. So, and as you mentioned, one of your missions is to navigate what resources are. So with that, I think I've read in the paper, you guys have really started to spark plug some initiatives, right?
Yes.
And so what is some of that?
A couple of things we've done. We started a website thanks to the incredible generosity of D3 in Ocean City. They built a beautiful website for us, which lists a lot of different resources. And now we're discovering, you know, that there's so many, that there's recovery houses, that there's 12-step groups, that there are groups that are not 12-step, that there are outpatient resources and inpatient resources. So kind of just trying to present that to our community so that they don't just have to Google, that they can come to our webpage and actually talk to people who have experienced those resources. Mm-hmm. My dream has always been to have a storefront where a person can walk in the door and say, I'm dealing with addiction, or my son's dealing with addiction, please help me. And we can say, here is a wall of 1,000 brochures, and tell me a little bit about what you're looking for, and maybe we can steer you towards the right place, and we can give you insiders information about that place and not just what you're reading on a brochure. And we've tried to kind of do that with our monthly meetings of the Worcester County Warriors. What we'll do is we'll spotlight a guest speaker and have that speaker present, whether, you know, it's somebody from an inpatient resource talking about what they have available, whether it's somebody like our wonderful friend John Winslow talking about his journey and what kind of saved him. So we also have now an office space. It's not exactly a storefront, but it is an office space in the Mid-Atlantic Business Center in Berlin, where we feature brochures and we feature guest speakers and kind of try to guide people there so that we can give them information. We have a lot of people calling us. We had a Warrior Angel line, which was designed to help people who were looking for recovery. Didn't have a lot of phone calls on it, and the phone calls we did have weren't always appropriate phone calls. So what we've done is we've left a recorded message on our Warrior Angel line to have phone calls come to us personally so that we can kind of filter out what we need to provide for that person. But a lot of that is navigating of resources.
Okay. Is there any other kind of initiative going on that you guys are doing either behind the scenes in terms of the landscape of recovery support, even in the Eastern Shore area besides in your county?
Well, one of the, I think, main focuses that's kind of come out of all of this is we've had these amazing fundraisers based on the incredible work of my husband, Jamie McNeeley, and the generosity of Worcester County and Wicomico County. We've been able to hold usually about 3 or 4 fundraisers every year. And those fundraisers, the money that we gain from those fundraiser proceeds all go towards helping people into recovery. So we will get calls from Wicomico County and Dorchester County and Talbot County and inpatient resources such as Warwick Manor and Hudson Rehab who will call and say, you know, we have this person who needs to get into a recovery home and they've really burnt their bridges and they have no way of coming up with the $300 or $400 it's going to take for them to get in. So that's what we use our fundraising proceeds for. And one of our dear friends and board members is Tish Hamilton, who opened the DKH Recovery Home in Salisbury, and then the Hope for Recovery Home in Berlin, the first ever recovery home in Worcester County. So we're so excited about that, and we really try to partner with both of her homes and help people get in and sponsor different things like a washer and dryer for the home. So, you know, kind of, that seems to have become our main initiative.
Okay. So do you have a sort of a, it sounds like you have a lot of superstars, so to speak.
We do.
But is there one in particular, maybe their light doesn't shine where people might think it would shine, that you want to give a shout out to, that in terms of their journey and how they've intersected with your group or not?
We do have so many, and we have this stellar board, and I mentioned my beautiful friend Jackie Ball, who's just a powerhouse and really passionate about this journey, and of course Tish and her homes, and Jamie and his fundraising, and Tracy Simpson is on our board, who is with the Worcester County Drug Court system and has been hugely invaluable in her wisdom and her networking. Colleen Waring, who is vice president at Atlantic General Hospital, has been just really so important in bringing Atlantic General into this foray and understanding what they need to do in terms of fighting the opiate epidemic. I mentioned Nate Passwaters, who is also on our board. We're so lucky to have him. We also have an incredible, what we call our warrior coordinator, who's kind of boots on the ground. She is, I don't want to say an intern, but she is comes to us through the Hope Corps Foundation, which is part of Salisbury University, who are putting people in positions to fight this epidemic. Her name is Kelly Green, and she is an incredible warrior and another powerhouse that I can pick up the phone and say, oh my gosh, Kelly, I'm so crazy busy and we need to take care of this, and she does it in an instant and appears at probably 150 trade shows and recovery shows across the counties. So we're really blessed to have her.
Wow, wow. So when you're now in this sort of illumination of this life purpose, as it were, are you optimistic of this epidemic as it's been and the efforts you've done up to date? What gives you hope or motivates beyond this sort of drive that this is my purpose?
I think What gives me hope, of course, is seeing the personal journey of my son and seeing how well he's doing. That's everything to me. I have a couple of other family members, and watching their journeys and being able to connect them with resources is what lights my fire. Okay. The number of overdoses in Worcester County has decreased, and that's huge for us. Whether we had a part in that or not, we'll never know. But I think in just bringing this to the forefront, you know, and one of our biggest hopes and goals is to erase the stigma that comes with addiction, that comes with people looking for help. And I think we've really helped to do that. Jackie and I a lot of times joke about how, you know, now it's just such a normal thing for us, and it's so easy to talk about and just a normal part of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, like stigma, and our audience is listening to this, or they're watching this on YouTube, is there something you could say to a parent maybe who is struggling or just gotten out of the denial of a substance use disorder, that their family member, or maybe even themselves? What would you say to somebody who's watching this show right now and hearing about the work that you guys are doing?
I think the biggest message that I want to get out there is that there is always hope. As all of us know, as all of us who have walked these paths and gone these journeys, whether it's our own personal journey or our journeys with our loved ones, there is always hope. So never, ever, ever give up on the person that you love. I think, you know, we always want to get out the message that you're not alone. And it is so isolating, and it can be, I think people feel shame and embarrassment, and it's so important not to feel that way, that we're all in this together, and that probably every single person you know has been affected by addiction in one way or another. So don't let it isolate you. And you know, it's so scary as a parent, because society has always taught us that you have to have this tough love and that you have to let your loved one reach their rock bottom, and sometimes that means turning your back on them. I don't want to ever tell anyone how to do it, but what I really learned is it's so important to let people that are suffering with this know that they're loved, you know, and that might not mean that they have to be on your couch, but know that they are loved and know that there is somebody out there that is going to help them. And that will always be there for them.
Yeah, it's like the idea that some people would say, I love the person, but I hate the disease, yes. Or I'm fighting not the person, but the disease, or yes. Really the consequences of it and the outcomes of what active addiction does in people's lives and in communities as well.
Absolutely. And as a parent, I had to learn that my son wasn't doing this to have fun, and he wasn't doing this to party, and he wasn't doing this to rebel against me. He was doing this because in order for him to stay alive, he thought, and in order for him to function, he had to do this. And he didn't want to, but his brain was hijacked. And so, you know, he had to really battle and really fight to be able to stop doing this. And I think to take my ego and myself out of the equation, it's not about me. It's not about doing it to me. It's about what he's dealing with and trying to save him from that.
Well, you kind of lead us, as we're going to wrap up here in a couple minutes, but the idea that you are saving yourself more than the other person. I think of when you're in a plane and they instruct you about the oxygen, that put it on yourself first before you put it on a child or an elderly person, that you have to save yourself first and your own mental health and your own recovery of sorts that have been impacted by the effects of addiction. So what would you say to that then for yourself, like that example you just gave?
What an excellent, excellent analogy. And yes, that's very true. I think as the loved one of somebody who is suffering with addiction, I think it's so important to find your life and to find your joy in whatever way you can, to separate yourself from that addiction. You know, I think in the real throes of it, no matter what I was doing, whether I was at work, whether I was at home, whether I was on vacation, enjoying myself, there was always that at the forefront of my mind, is that I'm so worried about my son and what can I do to help him. And I think selfishly, you have to come to a point where that moves from the forefront to the background of your mind, because frankly, I don't think there's anything I did to help him. I think he found it within himself. He knew I was there for him. He knew I loved him. But I think he had to find it within himself. And it was a chain of events that worked to kind of catapult him towards recovery. And you're exactly right. If I had been the mom falling to pieces like I often was without his knowledge, I couldn't have been there for him at all.
So I mentioned to you earlier, I lost my stepson as a result of his addiction, and that was 20 plus years ago, and a couple close calls with my son Matt as well. And for my own personal recovery, and I believe it's like this for a lot of folks, but I've taken that path that has a lot of spiritual elements. And one of them is this idea that as parents that we want to save our kids, and we're just in torment when they are close to death or they do die. And this idea that has finally given me some comfort over the years, and I believe other parents, is the idea that God doesn't make grandchildren. In the sense that your own peace that comes from whatever relationship of a higher power or spiritual source that you have, your child, your loved one has that same opportunity or capability. And that's sort of that faith of being able to let go or let be. Yeah, that's a concept I've heard recently. Instead of let go, let be.
Yes.
And so do you have anything to say to that?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, and you articulate it so beautifully. I think that's what I've learned is let be. And I can't force my child down the path that I want him to go on. I can't force him to do what I think he should do or to make the choices that I would make for him. He is his own person who, as you said, was created by God. And I have to just kind of trust that God will take that path and that he'll choose his path, and hope that it won't be a path that leads to destruction. But there's not a whole lot that I can do to ensure that it's not.
Great, great. Well, as we're now coming to the end of the show, is there anything else you want to tell our audience that's watching this that can instill or solidify sort of foundational hope that people do get well, and you do that not alone, but with communities like yours?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, that's one of the things we've also tried to do with our Warriors meetings, is to spotlight someone who's in recovery so that people can have hope. I would say to anybody that's dealing with the addiction of a loved one, or anyone that's suffering with addiction themselves, reach out to us. We're on Facebook. You can send us a Facebook message at the Worcester County Warriors Against Opiate Addiction. One of us will get back to you. You can email me personally at my email address, which is, if you go to our website, which is wocowarriors.org, so WOCO warriors.org, the email address on there will come directly to me. So we can communicate. You can come and talk with us. We'll call you. Whatever you need to do to reach out to have somebody to support you. I think sometimes the important thing is just talking to somebody about it, somebody that's been through it, that can offer hope.
Awesome, awesome. That's a great way to sort of wrap up this show. And I hope those who are watching this will check out their website and also their Facebook page, and also share. Yes. Pass this on. It really is a lot about paying it forward in the way the whole recovery community works, and the treatment world and intervention world and prevention world. And so I want to thank you guys for watching this, I believe, inspirational show today. And I want to thank Heidi again, McNeeley, for being our guest.
Thank you so much, Perry. Thank you for the incredible work that you do.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Want to thank the Recovery Resource Center for, again, hosting and sponsoring our Recovery Today show. And we'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm Heidi McNeeley, the president of the Worcester County Warriors Against Opiate Addiction. We are a 501c3 organization that strives to help people on the Eastern Shore get into recovery for addiction. If you are a business or a community member that would like to help us financially, you can go to our website, wocowarriors.org, and use the donate button directly on the website. We have multiple fundraisers throughout the year, and we always welcome your donations of goods and services for our silent auction, and certainly welcome your support by attending the fundraisers. Thank you so much.